Hello and welcome. In the huge magical kingdom of the cloud, data isn't just, well, data. It's not just a bunch of ones and zeros, it's actually alive. It has a story to tell, a whole journey to go on. And today, we're going to follow one little piece of data on its epic adventure, from just a tiny whisper all the way to a trusted insight. So let's dive in. I want you to think of this as a real adventure story. We're not just looking at some dry technical process. Nope, we're actually following our hero, this piece of data, as it faces challenges, gets transformed, and ultimately finds its true purpose. Our goal here is to really understand the magic that makes this whole cosmic dance possible. All right, every great story has to start somewhere. And for our data hero, that beginning is inside a magical treasure chest. In the Cloud Kingdom, we call this an S3 bucket. This is where it all kicks off, where our data first arrives, ready to make its presence known. So how exactly is that first whisper heard? Well, the second our hero, the data file, lands in that treasure chest, our magical postmaster, EventBridge, hears the signal. Now, it's not constantly checking, it's instantly notified. EventBridge recognizes the message and basically says, aha, this is what I've been waiting for. And right away, it kicks off the grand plan. The whole workflow just springs to life. But here's the thing. This postmaster is incredibly smart. It doesn't get distracted by every little noise. It has a very specific set of rules it follows. It's only listening to one particular treasure chest, looking for a special kind of seal, like a .parquet file, which is just fantastic for big data. It even checks that the file landed in the right part of the chest. And crucially, it knows to ignore all the background noise, those temporary files that aren't our real hero. This makes sure that only the right data gets to start this epic journey. So, once the journey begins, it needs a guide. And not just for one little step, but for the entire performance. This is where we meet the celestial conductor, the absolute master of this entire cosmic symphony, who knows every single note and every pause in the master plan. And that conductor is a service called AWS Step Functions. Honestly, think of it as the ultimate project manager. It holds the entire blueprint for the data's journey. Now, it doesn't do the heavy lifting itself, but it tells everyone else what to do, when to do it, and what to do if someone messes up. It's the one place you can look to see if the whole pipeline is working or not. Okay, so this is a really crucial distinction to understand, the difference between the conductor and the musicians. In our story, a service like Glue Workflows is a musician. It's an expert at its own part, right? It manages the nitty-gritty data steps within a single song. But Step Functions, that's our conductor. It sees the entire symphony. So while Glue might retry a single missed note on its own, Step Functions is the one that handles a major problem in the middle of the performance, alerting everyone and managing the whole recovery. And this is exactly why having a conductor is so powerful. With Step Functions, you get one central place to manage everything. If a service has a temporary glitch, Step Functions can just try it again. If something really breaks, it sends out the alert. If the whole thing is taking way too long, it calls time. This gives you one single reliable dashboard to see the health of the entire cosmic dance. It's a game changer. Of course, our data hero doesn't just travel from point A to point B. It has to be transformed. So now the trials begin. This is where our hero is forged into something new, something much more valuable. And you know what? Sometimes these trials require a whole lot of patience. So here's a classic challenge. What happens when your main task, let's say the final big calculation, can't even start until several other things are finished first? Like ingesting the data, cleaning it up, and making sure it's valid. How does it know when it's okay to begin? The solution is this really beautiful pattern called a fan-in. Our musician Glue Workflows can handle this perfectly. It kicks off 3 tasks all at the same time, in parallel. Then it sets up a little gate with a special trigger, and that trigger has one simple rule. And this gate will not open, the next job will not start until it gets a success signal from ingest and clean and validate. It's that simple. And only then, when all its ingredients are perfectly prepared, does that final transformation job begin. So, as our hero gets closer to the end of its journey, it's becoming refined, valuable, and that means it needs protection. We need guardians to make sure its quality is top-notch and its integrity is preserved. We have to be sure only the best, most trustworthy data reaches its final destination. And the very first guardian is a gatekeeper with a really strict rule. To get past, our data has to hit a quality score of over 95%. This isn't just a friendly suggestion, it's a hard and fast requirement to be considered golden data. So, how does this actually work? Well, we define a set of quality rules for the data. Things like this field can't be empty, or this ID has to be unique. The data is automatically checked against all these rules, and then it gets a score. If it passes, fantastic. It moves on to the curated golden zone where everyone can use it. But if it fails, it's immediately sent to a quarantine area for someone to look at. This automated gate is what makes sure our final data is always pure. Our second guardian is the Vault Keeper, a service we call Lake Formation. This guardian is all about controlling who gets to see what part of the final golden data, and its rules can be incredibly specific. It can say things like, okay, analysts can see the transaction ID and the amount, but they are absolutely forbidden from seeing the customer's email or phone number. It can even mask the data, maybe showing just the last 4 digits of a phone number, enough to be useful without giving away sensitive info. This is how we protect our hero's deepest secrets.
And just like that, our hero has completed its journey. It was born from a whisper. It was guided by a conductor. It was transformed by trials. And it was protected by guardians. But in this kingdom, the end of one journey is really just the start of another.
You see, what we've just watched isn't a one-time thing. This great cosmic dance is happening all the time, with millions of data heroes making this exact journey every single day. It's an automated, intelligent, and, dare I say, beautiful system that is constantly turning raw whispers into trusted, valuable insights. So that really leaves us with one final thought. We've seen how data can be guided through this incredibly intelligent, self-correcting, and secure journey. So if you had access to this perfectly orchestrated flow of information, what's the one critical question you would ask it? What's the one thing you'd want it to tell you? Thanks for joining me on this explainer.